Uh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of Rivercity 93. I'm your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and joining me is a man that was stress watching the USMNT, almost the same as he did the Kickers sometime this week. It's Mr. Matt Myers.
No
Hi,
stress.
Matt. Okay,
Never
well,
in
that's
doubt.
good.
Never in doubt.
Yeah, we're recording this right after the U.S. advances against Canada, and Matt Freeze, sir, that man locked into like a whole nother level with those saves, like a whole nother level. Should have been that stressful, given that some PKs should have been made, but yeah, no, he absolutely locked in.
Hey, survive in advance. It's the name of the game. Shout out Canada. What up?
Oh, yes. Talk about not showing up. I think CBS Galazzo put a side by side at the beginning of the tournament. You know, he was very famous to say, "Oh yeah, I didn't have one single guy call out. You know, all my guys wanted to be here." Talking about U.S. players not being here, and then right after the game tonight, when they lost to Guatemala on PKs, he says, "We're missing half our team here at this tournament right now."
I feel like I might have heard that one before.
Like, okay, sir. Okay. But much like this game, I think the US M&T and the Kickers might have a lot of comparison, Matt, and just follow me on this. So missing a lot of key players in the squad. Has a coach that is under pressure for tactics and off the field rumors. Have a team that did not perform well in in a cup competition, USMNT, the National League, Nations League, the Kickers, US Open Cup, and Jägermeister. Had a pretty disappointing first half of their season. Not pretty disappointing, but average to mid. And then somehow, maybe on the flip side, have a positive game, i.e. Union Omaha. Don't worry about the Lexington game. That game doesn't count towards anything. And maybe they can springboard this into success into the second part of their season. You see the parallels?
I mean, I can squint and maybe get there. I don't know what this hot Darren Gossip is supposed to be though. That's the parallel. Is he also not interviewing for Brentford or someplace like that?
I mean, I have heard rumors that the Seattle Sounders are the Atletico Boise are calling around for Darren, the new team out in Boise. I'm totally making that rumor up, by the way.
Yeah. That's why I'm not acknowledging it.
Yeah, no. Nah. So yeah, so we got I want to say a lot to talk about. We really have one game to really focus on. But
There's
we'll
a lot in
start
that
off.
game.
Huh?
There's a lot that happened in that game though.
Oh, you talking about the Union Omaha game or the Lexington game?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. We're gonna take our time talking about the Union Omaha game. The game that we're probably not going to talk about, and if you are listening to this podcast to listen to, we're not going to talk about it because Matt, I think this is the nice way to say it. Hold on, before I say this, if you haven't already, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We're 82 listeners on YouTube. We're trying to get to 100 by the end of the year, so your subscription helps. Also, you go to rivercity93.com and donate. I had to remember that before I forgot it. Back to what I was saying.
I thought you were setting us up for actually before we start saying anything about this. Do this now before you don't like what we're gonna say.
Yeah, mostly that. Yeah, this Jägermeister game that happened last night, they lost 3-0 to Lexington. Doesn't really matter. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I think about it like this. This is a tactically. If you're looking at this game for tactics, nothing happened that's groundbreaking. If you're looking at this for to see how certain up and coming players can fit into the 18 and kind of carve a name for themselves, I think there might be some breadcrumbs there. Outside of that, like, do not allow this game to change how you feel about this team positively or more negatively. That's pretty much
Yeah,
it.
the way I would look at it is in a 2-game match week, if you're given the option of win game A or win game B, everybody should have been picking game A
Yeah,
because
100%.
the kickers are basically already eliminated from the Jäger Cup going into Saturday. So
Mhm.
I think mathematically they probably already were just because of different permutations because other teams have to play their other games too. So even if they had won out, they wouldn't win the group.
Yeah.
So the game was, for all intents and purposes, meaningless. Meanwhile, an actual league game against a team that, at least as of right now, we're right up against it, for that seventh, eighth playoff spot.
Mhm.
Yeah, you pick that one every day of the week, and played out exactly like that.
Yeah, exactly like that. Like this Lexington team, yeah, I know people was looking at the table and be like, look, they suck. And you also remember how they played the last 2 years in League One. There is still a difference in this team. This team has championship players, like AKA Speedy Williams, who people might not know of, has won a multitude of USL championships, i.e. with Louisville.
Or
But
Corey Burke, who played years in MLS.
yeah, ex-Jamaican national team member as well.
Yeah, and actually, even just physically looked bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody else on the field because, well, he
He
was.
is. He was. And then you had Medence, the local kid who I would love to see him play here. But hey, money talks. And the opportunity speaks as well. But I mean, like the things I took away from this game, and before I get to the players, like if you go look at 2 of the goals, the third one that I don't really even care about that one. Both of them are set pieces. They literally the first one that he got away from
Gee.
Gee, yeah, got away from Gee. But when you still frame it and look at when he hits the ball, he out jumps everyone by like almost a half a foot or more. And then the second one, it's just everyone jumps, he just out jumps everyone else. That's it, really.
Yeah, I mean, he made a good run of the ball that didn't get picked up
Correct.
on
Yeah.
the flicked header, but yeah, I mean, it's the set pieces again, which I feel like we've covered enough, but
Yeah.
infuriating that's still not getting fixed. So I don't care about the no excuses but line. Like, there's no excuses, then fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, for the
It
most
was
part,
also funny how like the Lexington players were like almost overlooking our midfield and like some players on the field, like especially our midfielders. Just
yeah. I mean,
like
when you watch games like that up close, you literally can see the difference between the levels. We talked about this in the Louisville game,
yeah,
too, where you just see that guys are that half step extra faster, that extra 1 or 2 inches, that extra 15 pounds, on them, and it shows.
yeah,
Across the board. And yes, like skill is a big piece of it, but when you add skill plus physicality,
it
skill
changes
plus
it
physicality
out.
is going to beat skill minus physicality,
Yeah,
right?
and
So
that's what happened.
also remember, there's literally nobody on this Lexington team that was on the team last year. So it's not the
Not even
same
on the
puppy
team 2 months
clowns.
ago, Matt.
Yeah.
Probably on the team 2 months ago.
So it's not the same, bunch of jokers that everybody enjoyed clowning on the last couple of years.
Yeah, no. So, all right, talk about the players that stood out to me in this game: Landon Johnson, Andrew Richmond, and Kanagwa. Um,
Really,
started
those,
off with
those are your choices. I'm
yeah,
intrigued. I'm
you know.
intrigued by this. Okay.
Okay, so and mainly I was just watching those 3 because I'm like, all right, Landon's more or less supposed to be the replacement for Darwin. Kanagwa stepping into the Dak role, and Richmond is filling in for like James Vaughn or like another midfielder. So those are three that I was like, okay, I want to see how they do, because if Darren is going to make chicken salad out of this roster, you're going to need the bottom of his roster to pull his weight. You also need the top of the roster to pull his weight, but really need the bottom, really the kids. So Kanagwa, what I watched in him was, I didn't see too much distribution, but I think the way how Darren has the CDM role design is that based on distribution is more so like being like a sweeper and cleaning up a lot of the balls, and then helping it or getting it to players who can then progress it up. I thought Kanagwa did decent in that. I want to see a little bit more from him physically, because a lot of 1v1 battles he was getting beat down in, but I think he did decent in that role.
Well, I mean, he's pretty much the reason Griffin got sent off.
Yeah. He was really late on that as well. Which is funny enough, because I talked to Griffin after the game, and he said he went back and watched the pen, and like literally their shoelaces got tangled up.
Sure.
Hey, but yeah. So in fact, I think he did decent. Yeah, he was the reason Griffin got sent off, but I think he did okay. Like, he's not an everyday starter. I think there's still a lot he need to improve and work on, but
so I mean, he was, for me, kind of invisible, and that's not necessarily a bad thing in that position sometimes, but I think the most damning thing for him is in your post game interview with Darren, when he's talking about him.
oh yeah,
Darren will blow smoke about anything in those interviews. It's all things are going to turn around. They're going to be great. Best thing he could come up with for Kanagwa was he was okay.
Yeah, and I mean that's what it was. Like, Dak is probably still the number one preferred player there, and maybe even a James Vaughn if he's healthy. But if you tell me like Kanaga's come on to like help clean up, okay, like maybe that's his role right now. I want to see, like, the more I see, I want to see him improve on something. But I think right now, if you tell me like, all right, he's getting 5 to 10 minutes and clean up, okay, I don't see an issue with it. The other player, Andrew Richmond, I talked to him in the post game, and he talked about how I asked him the question of like, what's the biggest adjustment coming from the academy ranks to now, and he was saying that it was more physicality, like everything is just like a second faster than what you anticipated it to be, and I really saw that a lot in his play. Like, he looked sometimes like he was on an island trying to figure out like, okay, do I cover here or do I step here, or like, and it was a real good opportunity he was setting up. I think it was Nils laid the ball off there. He was about to lay it off the landing on the wing, but it just gets intercepted. And it's like, if he plays that ball a second earlier, Landon still can run onto it. And who knows? Maybe it's just either, at worst, a shot on goal, right? We didn't have any of those this game.
Again.
You're right. But yeah, I think as he gets more minutes, and I hope his minutes aren't like as big as it was in this game. Like, if he gets 90 minutes over the next 6 games, I think that's fine. But I don't need to see overexposure in him right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then Landon Johnson.
That's fair. Yeah, I think. I think Richmond's looked pretty decent in his sub appearances, like 15 to 20 minutes at a time. I think starting is probably a step far at this point, but this is the perfect game to test that out.
Yeah. And then the last one, Landon Johnson. This is a game where if I would love to see him with Maxey, because I really think and this is nothing wrong against Becca Howe. I think Becca Howe is a okay to good defender for USL League One standards, right? Like, there's room there to grow. The thing that he really need to grow on is when to overlap and when to underlap as a fullback, and also contributing offensively. Granted, he has an assist already, but like, Landon's a great 1v1 defender that likes to cut in almost like Darwin, but he really, like, Darwin's able to create whether or not he has someone overlapping him. Landon really needs someone to overlap him to pull a defender away from him, so he's not facing like a fullback or the center back who can solely focus on him. He doesn't have that in his toolbox yet where he can like wiggle or create out of tight spaces yet. And some of the intermediate passing left me a little bit questionable. Like I want to see him smoothing that up. I was shocked to see he only got 45 minutes. I would have liked to see him maybe get 60. If it's 60 or 65, I'm okay with that. But I think in a game in which you're already down 2-0, maybe it's okay to try him out for another 15.
I can agree there. Felt a little surprising to make that change then. I mean, I get
especially for Sarah Tacos, who got 45, to move him to striker. Like maybe you could just, if you want to change striker, if it's about changing striker and bringing Sarah Tacos in, maybe take Hayden off.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Or switching up.
So I thought the easy standout of the game was Billhardt. Like anything good that was happening in that first half was happening when the ball was at his feet.
And, 100%. He was the bright point of this team.
Right.
100%. And maybe Simon as well with the 2 crosses to Hayden that didn't go anywhere in their own goal.
Yeah. So that I was just surprised that name didn't come out of the players that caught your eye, because it looked like like good version of Adrian Billhardt from last year out there, with the way that he was able to cut inside, hold the ball up and be able to slip passes to Simon, overlapping them, all of that. Like that was really encouraging for me to be able to see. Give us that glimmer of hope that maybe he's fully ready to go and he can make that right wing spot his.
Yeah, he didn't go full 90 in this game. How many minutes did he?
No, he got subbed out at
62. Okay, so 62 minutes. But that's can't do math right now in my head. That's a lot of minutes. 250 minutes. There we go. At least 250 minutes in the last 2 games in a tight week. I mean, that's really encouraging. I still want to see this team with Darwin on the left and Billhardt on the right. I just want to see it, and I want to see it healthy. But
it'll be interesting. I think and potentially exciting.
Yeah. So,
and also, once again, kind of screwed by circumstances, scoreline. But I thought Pablo was pretty strong.
Yeah, he was. I'm waiting for him to get his first clean sheet, still in the Kickers jersey. I didn't feel very confident about it tonight. I mean, again on Saturday, but I was hoping for it. Hopefully soon, man. I think we'll talk about it when we talk about Chattanooga. So I'll save that. So yeah, that's a book on that. We move ahead. Well, we move back to talk about the Union Omaha game that we saw. So going into this game, Matt, Kickers desperately needed a win, big time, to make sure A, they stay in the playoff race, B, make sure they don't get left behind. And just overall, they just needed to get a win. They haven't had a win in a while. In a good while. What was your thoughts when you saw the lineup? I mean, we saw Kirkland. I think it was the same. No, my fault. Yeah, same lineup from the last game.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly surprising. The team that was rolled out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been a change in the back line. Like I can't remember which combination of center backs played which game.
Griffin took it out for Franca. No. Yeah, Franca, I think.
Yeah, so but overall not a shocking lineup, but what I liked about this game, obviously I like the result. But
the result's the best. That's the best thing.
I felt like the Kickers really played into the environment there. And by that I don't mean the crowd that wasn't there, because holy crap, I thought there weren't many people at our game on Saturday. There's nobody at that Wednesday game in Omaha. But we've talked a lot about how that's a little bandbox of a baseball diamond. And normally, I think in the past, the Kickers have gone there and they try to play ball on that little field, and it hasn't always worked out well. Although they have a surprisingly decent record at that field.
Yeah, they do. Let me see. I think I got to pull it right now.
I mean, this is at least the third time they've won there.
Nope, second. Out of this. Oh wait.
2020.
Oh, my fault. I'm not counting this one. My fault. I'm looking at it. He didn't have this one. So you're right. 3. Yeah, 3 wins there. To Union Omaha's 5. But that doesn't count because that doesn't count.
But I mean, you look at a lot of what was happening was it was long ball and just playing very, very direct. And on that field, when you play direct, as we saw with Snedden's goal kicks, like City Stadium, his goal kicks get to the other side of the center circle, and that's not shading him at all. That's a pretty standard length goal kick, right?
Yeah.
On that field, his kicks were getting close to the other penalty box.
Yeah.
And that, for whatever reason, just caused Omaha's defenders to panic like nobody's business.
Oh my God! All right,
and you know what? I know Josh Kirkland scored 2 goals in that game. He's not the MVP of that game. MVP of that game is the collective Union Omaha center backs because talk about hooking some guys up in a time of need.
It was. I think that was for both of them, right? Because the first one,
you can argue
he
that
just
all 3 in the first half.
Oh yeah, the first one he just shanked it. Well, yeah, the own goal he just shanked into the back of his net, and dude just looked so defeated. Like he was just like, I'm done. I'm over this. The first one, yeah, and this is probably the moment that gave me the most happiness in this game is seeing Billhardt score so early into this game. And I feel like you said, like that direct free kick. I'm not gonna lie, I was really hoping that Sneddon would get an assist for either one. He didn't, because Kirkland. But Kirkland does have a big influence in this play. He gives it on to Billhardt, and he just lowers it past Nuhu to the far post.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good shot.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks like 2 years ago Nuhu saves that. So I don't know if he's lost
I'm not gonna lie, man. I think Nuhu started to hit that Akira. Like he started to come off the peak.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, good shot, but like it used to be that you had to have like the perfect shot, to score against that man.
Yeah, for real. So real quick about Kirkland. And if you go back and look at the Spokane game when he come on at halftime, how our offense just fell off a cliff's edge. Look at it, like really, if you go look at the last 3 games, our best halves of soccer or when this offense is really competent is when Kirkland's on the field and is able to win those knockdowns.
Yeah. And I didn't think he had that in his game, for the first part of this year even, because I thought his best asset, before was his pace, being out on the wing and you're really being able to run the players, kind of like what he did for one of those. I think it was maybe the first goal he scored against what was that?
I know which one you're talking about.
Not Altus. It doesn't matter who it was, but the one where he kind of just put it near post upper 90.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, but he's been able to come into the middle. I honestly kind of just take the spot away from Emmy at this point, I think, and make it his own.
Yeah, I mean,
very, very different style of center forward than what we've been used to the last 5 years. But look at the results.
Yeah, like it seemed like this team, outside of maybe like a center, a CDM, like having a vocal point as a striker. This is when this offense looks the most confident, most competent, able to produce something, because it seems like having a focal point up there who can win knockdowns and this team can challenge or win second balls seems to be the best thing for them. Like when you look at it, look at how the offense was vastly different when they had Hayden on the field against Lexington. Not too many long balls, a lot of balls out to the wings, not a lot of knockdowns, win for second balls. Yeah. Look how it is with Kirkland in there, winning second balls up in the air, challenging the center backs, able to leave our wingers on the island so they can collect the ball and attack head on into space against Union Omaha players. And the goals were great as well because the funniest one is
there's competition for which is the funniest goal.
this one. Oh, okay. I can't really describe the first own goal, but this one is funny because Knapp is like Knapp is running with Kirkland, and then I don't know if he hears Nuhu late or whatever, but he collides with Nuhu, but he ducks. So and the ball still goes over him, and Nuhu, I think, is just caught up in the whole thing. And there's just Kirkland, which felt like it took forever for him to score. And I was just like, please don't miss. Please don't miss. Please don't miss. All in a triple crossing. But he scored, and it felt great.
Yeah. No, I was just watching the actual own goal back, and
I figured you were doing that.
I think the other one probably is funnier, but just the way that the guy actually plays the ball into his own net is hilarious.
He 100% just shot it in the back of his own goal. It is like the crazy thing is about that one. He's not even under that much pressure.
No, that's why it's still funny because
like,
he just sticks his foot out as well. Like you could have just literally just kicked that anywhere. Instead, you just let it hit you and roll into the goal. Like, I mean, appreciated, but
he had a better chance of just like side footing it and let Nuhu just had the rebound save or something. Like I
think he's better off not doing anything.
Probably so. It was very much I'm talking about it before in the show where defenders are just caught in the air like fly by night, like just caught off guard. He was 100% that. Now
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if who was that? That was tracking him. Hayden. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Hayden's going to get to that ball otherwise.
No, he's not. Defender just had to stand there. Like, allow someone else to come get it. You can dominate.
But serious side of it, like big credit to Kirkland for disrupting whichever Omaha defender was just casually trying to dribble the ball out. Poking free. Chandler busts out his left foot. We hadn't seen that in a few games. Hits the post with it, but then the rebound, and I couldn't help but think that whoever designed Omaha's jersey this year were really forward thinking. They're awful, right? We can agree on this. Those are awful looking jerseys.
Look, but I thought Richmond might have had the worst ever jersey in USL League One history. Union Omaha this year were back to back on ugly jerseys, like the most ugly jerseys.
You don't like what could have been a really fine looking jersey, black and white stripes, but and something that's very appropriate to the way that all their defenders played on for Wednesday. That's when we played them. It looks like the bottom half of their jerseys are just too long and they pissed themselves.
Yeah, it looked like
it looks like they are dehydrated men out there who could not get themselves to the bathroom in time. That's what their jerseys look like.
Oh man, that reminds me of the Texas coach. I can't remember what was his name. Tom Herman, who had the chart in every football player's locker room about their P levels. Like that's what it looks like. He was like dehydrated. You're a horrible person. It's like you don't care about your family. It's like
that's have some water, guys. Work on
and then
that.
The other one looked like a Walmart acid trip shirt.
Well, I mean, they let the guys from 311, design those, and pretty sure I was, recall them being, heavy in the drug scene back in the 90s.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I don't even know who they are.
No, you've heard it. I guarantee you've heard at least a couple of their songs.
I might have. I couldn't point you out to them in a wall though, but I might have.
Yeah, they're like one of the first groups that actually had like the singer, but also the designated rapper in the group.
Oh.
So kind of like almost like a Linkin Park before Linkin Park in that regard.
Okay. So yeah, I might have to go back and see if I know any of the songs. This is homework for me now. All right, well, back to the game. Kirkland scored coming out the second half, scored a banger, scored a very nice goal. I'm not gonna lie, at first, Matt, I thought he should have laid it off. I think it's Billhardt making the in cutting run, but takes it from the top of the box and catches Nuhu out. And this is what I knew. Oh, Nuhu don't got it no more. Nuhu done lost that step. It ain't good. It ain't looking good. Yeah, he got caught up big time by Kirkland here, man.
What a shame.
Yeah. Now
but again, this is another
say?
one where it's Josh's defensive work that actually creates all of this, because he takes it off of some clown, right there in the midfield, 2 touches, and it's in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still, it was a good shot too. Like, I don't want to make it sound like, oh, it's just something that any, some slow roller that, somehow went through his Nuhu's legs. Yeah, you think he might have been able to get it, but I mean, he laced that and was able to get that low, kind of skidding bounce, ball coming off the outfield turf. It's a nice strike.
Yeah.
And it also goes to what we've been begging for years. Take the early shot. Yeah. See what happens.
Hey, it paid off. It paid off. Now, even though the kicker scored 4 goals in this game, Matt, they still managed somehow to give up 3.
Oh, it can't be easy.
Did I have a heart attack? Absolutely yes, during this game, and it was not fun. But it's only, if I look through all 3 goals from Union Omaha, there's only 1 goal that really leaves me with a sour taste in my mouth. Like, okay, we don't need to give that goal up. It's the third one, where I guess their 18-year-old kind of cuts in on Cella, and once again, as I tell my defenders, you don't want to leave that gate open. Like, leave your hips open and allow a defender to kind of use your hips as a guide towards the goal to have an easy shot. And that's what happens here, is because Cella allows him to cut in. His hips are open. The kid is kind of able to lace it to the bottom corner across Snedden's body and whatnot. That's the goal that frustrates me. But the PK, in my opinion, I don't. Do you think it's a PK?
I didn't think it was in real time. I watched it back a few times. I think it probably was. Now, I'm not sure if he called it on Simon or James.
I think he called it on Simon. I mean, not Simon. I think he called it on James, which I'm like, in that case, that's a save.
I don't. Either way, it's one of those where, especially in a league that doesn't have VAR, it's almost certain. You get an attacker getting sandwiched, by a defender and a keeper like that. You're asking for trouble.
Yeah, especially the way how this ref was calling this game. Seemed like any kind of physicality whatsoever was going to get snatched up and called.
See, it's funny you brought those up, because there's the first goal that frustrated me the most.
The first goal, I'll let you explain it. Why did it frustrate you so much?
I think it's just more of the same of what we've seen a lot. Cross comes in, can't defend the first ball, and get a header, comes off the upright, and it's just, for whatever reason, these guys never seem to be the first to react to a loose ball, because the guy who heads it off the post, good old friend Pato from the Lansing days, he's also the guy who scores it, so he's able to react quicker. And yes, maybe you can argue a little bit of good fortune that it comes back to him, but
yeah,
I mean, how many times have we seen these sort of things where it's either a save coming off of James or Pablo, or coming off the post, and our guys are just second to react.
Yeah, it was very much caught with flat-footedness on that one.
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that frustrated me more. Like, I hear what you're saying on the last goal. To me, partly it's well played shot, well taken shot.
Yeah.
So I don't love it, but okay, clap your hands, well hit. And thankfully they held on, because that was
No, they did.
Derby lasts a little bit.
Real quick about the first goal that they gave. I wanted to ask you this question: If say we were watching that clip, say we're in practice and we're watching that clip, who are you pointing out to is like, hey, I need you to fix this so this goal doesn't happen?
I feel like there's probably multiple pieces there because they almost ran one of our corner kick plays essentially just through open play of long cross to the back post, headed back across. They just added in the element with heading it off the crossbar and scoring from there instead of scoring directly off the uh, kind of second cross. So I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be a coach and know exactly what it is and how to be able to fix that. But we saw that with the goal right before halftime in the Louisville game. We've seen it a couple other times where it's just I don't know if it's reaction time sort of thing, if it's awareness, if it's something with positioning, but it's happened more than a few times.
Yeah, I guess the one for me that I would. And it's not his fault that this goal is scored, but I think he might have been able to prevent it. This is a learning moment for Beckett Howe, just because he kind of gets caught ball watching and loses track of his man. I understand why he's ball watching because he had the back pedal, but that's part of you like growing up. And I guess a lot of these youngsters we've seen it this year are drinking from the fire hydrant, and sometimes they are choking and gagging for their life. But this is the moment, a learning moment for Beckett Howe, where he just got to keep aware of where that defender is because he's able to influence, say, like 20 or 30%. It changes the trajectory of that ball and maybe makes it a save first netting. But yeah, like that's something marginal that I point out. But yeah, it's the flat footedness is definitely a concern as well. Maybe more a concern leaving that gate open because you're right. It's a well played shot. It was just frustrating because that I guess is more moment for me because I want you to close that game out because the ref allowed Union Omaha half a foot back in the door, and you don't want to create a potential avalanche in a game that you should have won turn into a useless draw.
Yeah, and I think you can look at this two different ways of this is a good conversation because we're seeing the game from different points of view. That's the positive version of it. The negative version is why are there multiple different things going on that we're identifying as the most frustrating pieces.
Right. Because the game in which you score 4 goals, you shouldn't walk out frustrated. You should be feeling good. Even if there's a goal scored, you still walk out and be like, yo, we scored 4, we play well defensively.
I mean, technically they scored 4, but
technically they did. Technically they did. I think another thing that I liked in this game, there was a lot more snappiness in this game. This is going to sound bad, but it's going to make sense, I promise. Even though we had Dak, Chella, Franca all on yellow cards in the first half, like the tactical fouls and being okay with picking up a card to prevent Union Omaha just strolling passes and being able to have easy possession worked. Like you were physical with Union Omaha, so it made Union Omaha get in their own head and make mistakes, right? And then also instead of picking up a yellow card, I liked as well because it was a good veteran move. The time delay and wasting. Also, that was child abuse. The Union Omaha player running and knee net in the back of the head near the end of the game. That's child abuse, sir. He is a minor.
I looked on Reddit. Apparently, James is now the new enemy in Omaha. Yeah, there are a couple of guys who did not like him at all because he's a diver.
He's a diver. He's a goalkeeper. He's supposed to dive.
I don't know, but yeah, not a fan. So you know what, James? Good on you. I mean, that seems like it's easy mode, for getting Omaha fans to not like you because they'll get set off at anything. So I mean, they're soft flyover folk. Yeah, but got to start somewhere. Once you get well, I was gonna say Westchester and the folks like that to not like you, but that would involve Westchester having fans. So ignore that. But you get where I'm going with this. The more hardened folks, have it out for you, then you've really made it as an absolute, uh, master of the goalkeeping arts.
Yeah. So, hey, overall, this is still a good game for me. You're able to walk out with a smiley face. You feel positive. Picking up the 3 points is huge. Sometimes you need a game like this, like even though we're nitpicking it and talking about what frustrated us and what we like. The most important thing to get the 3 points, and we haven't been on this side of it. I'm good.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, end of the day, it's about winning. It's professional sports. It's about results, not just anything else, which we've heard plenty about. Won't dive back into that conversation again right now.
Hey, man,
But
remember, the possession is important. We held possession. Not in this game we didn't, but
whatever. Yeah, you look back into the season. Might not remember this game because we had other wilder games than this, but it'll be three easy points because Omaha, take that broom.
Right, take that broom. This is the first time. So the Kickers have had seasons where they haven't lost to Union Omaha, but this is the first sweep of Union Omaha where we collected all points available against Union Omaha, and that's big. That is big, because I don't think last year we didn't have a sweep of a team, and I don't think we've had one in the last 2 years. Honestly,
Did we do Fuego last year? No, we drew away with Fuego.
Yeah. I don't think we've had one in the last 2 years. So
yeah, probably not.
Yeah. So that's big to get a sweep over a team, and to be done with that. It's huge. It's huge in that point. So right now that put the Kickers at 7th in the league. Last night, AV Alta dismantled FC Naples. Like it got ugly. So that puts us 3 points behind them. So right now, with the week that we have off, some teams are going to be catching up in games. When we come back on the 12th, the Kickers will have an opportunity to, weirdly enough, if things go their way, find a way in 3rd place.
Maybe. Probably depends on who plays each other next weekend when we're not playing.
Oh, yeah. Well, my fault. Chattanooga plays One Knox next week, so we can't go. If there's a draw in that game, the highest we can go is 4th. So
yeah, so there's a few games in between, but the doors are open. Like top 2 are kind of moving away from everybody else. Right now, so Spokane and Charlotte are kind of building up a gap so far, but Naples has come back to earth. Like all that talk about them being, expansion wagon and just dominating the league. No.
Yeah.
No.
AV Alta's on a hot streak, though. I think.
Yeah, I mean, they're the flip side of it. We were planning on them at first, and now they're on a heater and moving on.
Texoma's oddly enough warming up as well. Even though they lost to Phoenix, which was probably the best game of the weekend, they're unbeaten in their last 5.
Do you see who is scoring goals for them?
No, who was it? I just saw the score.
Apparently got Ricardo Pepe's little brother on the team now.
Oh, I did. Okay, I didn't know he scored the goals, but I know he was on the team. So great. Oh, great! That just. I'm sorry for the delayed reaction, but that just opened up a whole wound.
Oh, that was the point.
Oh man, I still remember Ricardo Pepe coming to Richmond and just
hitting a 30-yard dart into the top corner.
That's what I knew. I was like, "Yo, North Texas is the greatest team in League One history." Like that, I've never seen. What was he at that time? 18? 19?
No, he was like 16 or 17.
Yeah, he was young. Yeah, he was young. He was arguably the best player on the field.
Yeah. Well, the only argument was one of his other teammates, maybe a little bit better at that point.
Yeah,
like Arturo Rodriguez, but Pepe's clearly, absolutely flown past all those other guys.
Yeah. Whew, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that was different. That was a different team. Yeah. So hopefully they'll come back to earth. But yeah, so where we sit in the table, and I was making this point on Discord as well. If you're not part of Discord, it'll be in the description down below. You can join that. Join the Discord. It's fun.
You know what the real takeaway though at the table right now is?
Yeah.
Look who's propping it up. Who's carrying the league on their back right now?
Doing all the hard work. It's the only team not to score double digits so far. They have played more games than goals scored. Forward Madison.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we gave them their one win.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring that point
up. But besides that, they don't have a win against anyone else. And let's keep it that way.
I'm in.
All right. You know what, Matt? And before we get into listener questions, which, by the way, if you ever have a question, send us our way. You can do it on Instagram, DMing me, send it to the email. I think there's a way you can do it on our website as well, which is rivercity93.com. And let us know. We'll love answering your question. But I'm going to answer this question before we dive into that. Richmond and Madison are both having, well, one team's having a really bad year. The other team is average. Richmond doesn't spend money, and they're, let's say, probably at their ceiling, given the amount of youth they have to play. Fort Madison, however, has money, but hasn't spent it wisely and find themselves at the bottom of the table. So my question to you is, what team would you rather take from this point on over the next 2 years?
I'm always going to pick us because they're proven losers. They're proven absolute trash bag club. Right? What have they ever accomplished?
That is true.
Right? No, they've accomplished something this year. Their coach has grown up a little bit. He's not, getting himself, suspended for, crying and whining to the refs, every game, and kind of being a little, petulant child anytime anything doesn't go his way. He's grown up a little bit.
Talking about coaches, did you see the Rhode Island head coach that was on top of the stadium watching the game against Portland?
Yeah, whatever.
I wonder where Darren would sit if he ever got sent off in a game. I think it would be the condemned sitting, but I would love to see him like on top of the media box, like just watching the games.
There's been plenty of guys who have been sent off or subbed out. They go sit on the old grandstand.
Yeah, that would be funny to see. All right, so that's my question. But let's go ahead. Let's dive into the listener question. Once again, if you have one, send it to us via Instagram, email, or through the website. We'd love to hear from you guys. And it doesn't have to be questions, it can be tactics, ideas, or whatever. But we'll start off with this one. It says, this is from Shadow Wolf on Blue Sky. Is your offense too good for your own luck, or is your defense just not good enough compared to other League One teams?
Not sure I'm following the first part. Defense definitely not good enough. I mean, I don't see how there's any debate right there. I see, earlier conversation about, can't decide which version of them giving up a goal is, more frustrating. I don't know. What do you think he's asking on the first part about the offense?
Is the chances that the way I look at it is the chances that the kicker is creating offensively sustainable throughout the year?
I mean, they score in bunches because, as we've talked about, there's plenty of games where when they actually focus on defense, there's literally no attack to speak of in those moments, and then other games where we pot 4, in there. So it's a high variance offense right now, but it's not like they're scoring a ton of worldies. Like other than Emmy scoring from basically half field, like there's a lot of repeatable goals. They get scored off of Chandler goals off of corners and free kicks, and Darwin scored the same goal like 3 or 4 different times, clearly repeatable. So I think it's not like I think it's a fluke right now. They can score. They just need to be able to score and play defense, or both of those at the same time would be nice.
Yeah, for real. I think that's about it. I think I like the way how we create chances, especially with this long ball and using that to set up second chances or whatnot. It seems to be effective. It seems to be our offense is the best. I think
it's just when it's not there, it's not there. I mean, the last 2 home games, 0 shots on target at all.
Yeah, especially not having a target man. And Darren's got to find out that backup plan. And maybe this is the kind of game, like I said, like he's trying to figure that out. Like, what can we do if Kirkland's not on the field? Because he kind of saw how this team was without him. They weren't able to create anything. So how do you develop something out where, I hate to say it, more or less, outside of Chandler and maybe Dak, you're at a height disadvantage and attacking wise. So, keeping the ball on the ground, how do you create something else? We got another question from Shadow Wolf. This one is more so pertaining to attendance. What can the club do to get more fans in the stands, except for winning games? Because, I mean, obviously that's the most obvious answer. But what else can the club do? They're trying to get fans in the stands. And this is kind of like a hot button question as well, because hearing it from a few supporters and whatnot, there is a little bit of disgruntlement. Like even about the game yesterday, which they reported as 3.2K. We kind of heard it from other people. It was a little bit lighter than that. I'm not going to say the reported number, but it wasn't that. But even not even about the crowd, because we've had smaller crowds, and I can usually feel the energy from the crowd. It felt very docile, very like tuned out. But yeah, what do you think, Matt? What can the club do to help get attendance back to where it needs to be? Or what we thought
I
it
think
would
there's a couple different things. I
be.
mean, yes, I know we're not allowed to say when, but let's be real, that's a significant factor. And we've talked about this in years past. Like, city's a kind of a front running kind of town, and teams are doing well. They'll show up. They're not. They won't. But I think where that would be interesting. Just mentioned a couple minutes ago, last 2 home games, 0 shots on target.
Yeah.
Like, that's not entertaining. Before that, the Texoma game was rough to watch. Before that, the home game was North Carolina, which was rough to watch because they sat in and bunkered in. Like, okay, yeah, earlier in the season, there were some fireworks at home, had back-to-back, Westchester and Greenville 4-4 and 3-3. Can't say those weren't entertaining, games. I mean, frustrating in different reasons, but they were entertaining.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's one piece of it, honestly, and I'm sure this will probably piss some people off. Good news that the Ivy season's over finally, so they can actually focus on the kickers instead of splitting all their work. And I'm not convinced it was a full 50-50 split of where the marketing focus and sales focuses went. When with the concurrent seasons, so maybe our ticket sales staff will actually, I don't know, try. Yeah.
Which, real quick, before you continue, my fault. Shout out to the Ivy. They announced they had 25,000 over the course of their season. Even though unfortunately, they lost in Indianapolis, but having 25 over the course of the season is big for a women's side. But yeah, kind of to share joint efforts.
Yeah,
Maybe not.
And that goes back to really
out.
a bigger club effort, because we were promised and assured that when the Ivy started that they would have separate staff and it wouldn't bleed into affecting the kickers. And we've all seen, you go to an Ivy game, who's working it, it's all the same staff. So
yeah,
absolute lies they were telling us on that one.
I know they are tired people.
I don't care. We're paying customers, and
seeing, no, I was saying that.
Yeah, just seeing a clear drop off, in the quality of communication, quality of game day atmosphere, quality of of the play on the field doesn't overlap necessarily, but a drop in quality across the board organizationally over these last 2 months when they've been double dipping, and I'm sorry, it's not acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been weird, man. A lot of people had to pull up duty because Ivy and Kickers both head coaches. Now, granted, for different reasons, one to go see family, another one to go coach in the tournament, but head coaches were busy, which resulted in assistants having to step up and having to coach. And I mean, Ivy even talk about this more, but like the South, maybe it's just been a weird almond in City Stadium the last couple of games because the sound system just completely stopped working Thursday night, where it was glitching and I think it overheated at one point. Now, Ivy talk about this probably a lot more on the Vinecast. Not the Ivy, the Vinecast. We'll talk about this a lot more in their podcast. But yeah, to your point, it's just maybe getting back to focus on the one can help in some assets.
Right,
Assets there.
Yeah, maybe you put a little bit of pressure on your supposed media partners, who I have not seen at a game all year.
Hi, but we do this for we do this for fun,
right? But you look at the pull up your last couple little kind of stream of thought bits that you put on right before the post game interviews. What do you see on that big old scoreboard right there? Giant Channel 6 advertisement.
Yeah.
Nowhere to be seen. When was the last time you saw anything in the Times Dispatch about the Kickers?
Shoot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Channel 8 was starting to show up, but I haven't seen them in the press box in a while.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Zach. I don't think all this season. He writes for Richmond Times. And 6. Outside of, honestly, the only time I see 6, and this is the reason why you haven't been getting your pregame interviews anymore, because I just don't have the time to do them anymore. But that was maybe the only time I would see them. Definitely Shane or Casadante. I have never seen them at a game, but yeah. Now the media aspect leaves a lot to be desired, 100%.
Yeah, so push them on it. Even if you're just feeding them, the story. Which let's be real, we know that's what they do. Anyway, because talking points are shockingly similar.
Yeah.
But those are just a few right off the top of my head. I don't know if you have other ones that you want to add in.
No, I mean I think those are mostly the big ones there. You know, yeah, I think those are the big ones because I really can't add anything to it. So yeah, and look, I know listeners have their own thoughts as well. So once again, if you have your own thoughts of why things haven't been going right there, or if you feel like they have and you want to say something positive, send it to us. We'll love to read on air and discuss it. Um, you know, and talk about this more in depth. Maybe this is something we could talk about on our mid-break podcast where we can talk about the second half of the season that's coming up, because Darren did talk about that, about how they play 4 games in the month of July. It's a shorter month, but 2 league games against teams that you've respectively drawn against already this year, which should have been a win in both of those. You got to get 4 points minimum, I feel like, to stay and be involved in the playoff race. At that point, if you get anything less than 4, it's gonna make playoffs very tough.
Yeah.
Like the Jäger Cup game against Charlotte, I can really care less. Play the kids again. I don't care.
And the actual U20 team.
Yeah. And the international game, like
send the U20 team.
Yeah, I understand the starters might want to play. No. Sit down. I need you for Greenville. Sit down. But this is the other listener question we got from Justin. And he asks us, I'll skip that part. In the future, do you think professionals will look to sign with the team if they are benching pros because they aren't earning playing time compared to academy kids and decide not to come to Richmond? So really his question is, do you think potential free agents will look at Richmond and be like, they're really committed to playing the kids and playing time might be limited based on that.
I doubt it. I think it'll come down to how much money you're able to pay me. How much money
Right.
you're able to pay me?
Right.
I'm going to go over here because and it might depend on what position they are. Because if it's a position where you see that new academy, early pro, signing is in your spot. Okay, maybe there's a half second thought about that, but if there's not like an obvious person in that spot, like I feel most players had that little bit of irrational confidence in themselves, and that's how they got to the point of being a professional in the first place, because they have a strong self belief in what they can do, and they'd be able to go in and win the spot. So I get where the question's coming from. I don't think it would be a long-term thing. I'm not going to say it would never happen, because you don't know what everybody's going to think about. But I think it's going to come far more down to salary packages, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I would tell anyone, the reason why the kickers find themselves at where they are based on the roster is because who can pay more. Like, if the kickers were able to play more, they could get better players in. The kickers can't pay that, so you got to find unique ways to make the roster is what it is.
Yeah, or you take the money you do have and you concentrate it maybe into fewer players and roll the dice that they don't get hurt. We've been losing
That's
that on that
literally what
table
we're
this
doing
year.
right now.
Been losing at the table this year on those roles, but in backfill with super cheap young guys as a result. So probably hasn't played out ideally this year, but I can at least understand the strategy.
Yeah. So I mean, I think another thing is that you can look at this roster. I mean, look at potential free agents. They may also be like based on playing availability, right? So like a player like Darwin, Niels, right? They're probably, I would assume, this is based on no information, but like they're probably more or less guaranteed starters, right? For a place like center back. No there's going to be Griffin Garnett there. Becca Howe might be a little bit more experimentation. It's kind of what I'm trying to say is kind of based on where the necessary holes in the roster that aren't being plugged by a youth player might dictate the kind of players that Darren would then look to go fill in holes, right? There's no real CDM, so if Darren decides to be like, all right, we can go get a starter level CDM, then he might think twice about bringing a kid up because I just paid for the starter level CDM. I got to play him. So yeah, I don't know. But like you said, athletes are weird and they're always going to believe that they should be the one starting, which is not a wrong thing. And I think like that is honestly, maybe I'm a sicko for believing this. I think that is a good thing. My whole thing is if you're pissed about not playing, I need you to show that same level of aggression and willing to be desperate to play on the field when you get your minutes. Like you got to show like I should not be bitch. And players like Josh Kirkland have shown that. Players like Darwin have shown that. Like a Chandler, those guys who are integral to this team winning show that. You got to make sure you're part of that group as well.
Yeah, make yourself undroppable.
Yeah. Honestly. That's what it is. So, yeah, those are the listener questions. Once again, if you have any, you can send them our way. We'll love to answer them and talk about them on the show. Matt, anything else for you before we wrap up, my good man?
No, I mean, enjoy the off week.
Go touch grass, people. Go touch grass. This team cannot stretch it out for a week and a half.
That sounds like a challenge. I wouldn't throw that out there.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah, what more or less 2 weeks off. But yeah. What else are you gonna say, man? My fault. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, enjoy the break.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the first planned off weekend because depending on how you want to count that Knoxville debacle, for the guys have had in probably a few months. So, go do all the other family things, earn your points there, so that way you can cash them in for the rest of the home games, down the back, half the season.
Right. And it all starts with Chattanooga on July 12th, which is a home game. So make sure you're there. Make sure you are there so we can root on the boys, hopefully have a full crowd, beat Chattanooga, don't get anyone hurt in the international game, and then move on to Greenville and do the same thing again. So for you, Matt, for myself, as always, listeners, we just want to say thank you for taking the time of your day for listening to our show. Without you, we couldn't do this. We wouldn't want to do this. So if you can, just make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Once again, we're trying to get to 100 followers on YouTube by the end of the year. We're 28 away. If you're watching this content, make sure you go like us there. If you want to go to our website and go check out articles and everything else, you can go to rivercity93.com. Go up there. And if you want to donate to the show, which would be great because what you helps makes the show, you can do so by going to ko-fi.com/rivercity93 or rivercity93.com and go to donate there. So for Matt, Chenier, the whole crew, and myself, we just want to say thank you for taking time of your day for listening to our show. As always, be nice to someone because you don't know how much that could go to help improve their day. Love y'all. Be easy, be safe, and as always,